Why is Dave so quiet?
I had the volume turned down. Because the Skype's call sound is noisy as fuck. Oh, the mics are live again. Oh god, all the audience can hear us. Oh.
The skin of his teeth is Cody on time. I want to make that clear.
There's no skin on my teeth.
The faintest skin of the teeth. What was it? 30 seconds left on the timer.
No, there was a minute and 30 on the clock.
He's right. There was a minute 30 left.
There was 30 seconds. Great. Hello.
This is the Team Objection Podcast for June 21st, 2022, episode 533. We're finishing the TV sitcom tournament. There's no time for bullshit. We're going to jump right into it.
There's always
no time.
We're going to bullshit, but it's going to be during the...
We have finished tournaments like this, 32, in one episode. I think it's possible, especially because we've already talked about some of these shows. There's a few others we need to touch on still, but I think this is doable.
It really depends on how much Cody wants to grief us and just mess with us. And
that's right.
I have been very diplomatic in this tournament so far.
That was a kiss of death, though, Chris.
Like, do you want me to turn heel and immediately just start derailing? I can do that.
I mean, it would
Why'd you
fit
have to
your
poke
narrative.
the bear, Dave?
Yeah, like, exactly.
My
Bear.
God. Know your audience.
Idiot. God.
He's the one who insulted you already, Cody.
Not me.
Yeah, you did just defend me about being almost late.
Yeah, it's true.
Who, by the way, he was walking almost in lockstep with Sean as he came around the corner, so... Just to put that out there.
And who lives here?
We start with the top part of the bracket here, and the one seed's already gone. It was Big Bang Theory. No one feels especially sad about that. In its place is the 64 seed Ted Lasso is against the 32 seed Mad About You. A couple refreshers real quick before we get into it. If you've missed the first two parts of this, go watch the archives. They're there. You can see the whole thing. Don't jump in now. That's weird. And as a reminder, if you're in chat right now and we see you, Doug Maisie, etc., you're breaking ties. I suspect there's going to be several ties, especially as these start to get closer, so just keep that in mind. Now, 64-32 is our matchup here. Ted Lasso, Mad About You.
Sean, you're not beautiful.
This one's hard because, by the way, Paul Reiser was just in, like, I haven't seen him in anything in like 20 years, and he was just in an episode of The Boys, which I thought was so funny.
Really?
He's in Stranger Things.
And we talked about Stranger Things, though. But so he's in Stranger Things, then he's in The Boys. And like that's it. That's his whole filmography. I can't give it to Ted Lasso, right? It's like brand new. Mad About You had a full run.
I think on principle we use Ted Lasso to kill off Big Bang Theory, but I feel the same way, Sean. Like I probably have to go with Mad About You on this.
Like I don't think Mad About You is like
groundbreaking,
amazing, but like Ted Lasso had one really good season and one kind of mediocre season, so I can't vote Ted Lasso.
you can vote Ted Lasso an incomplete almost because we don't know how that third season is going to be, and if it's going to be like hit hard like the first season did and wrap it up well, then I could absolutely see myself voting over. But as we speak right now, yeah, it's Mad About You because it was actually a good sitcom and not a. I mean, they went for cheap laughs, but it wasn't. I don't know. It didn't seem to me lowest common denominator like some other sitcoms have been.
I think you're actually underselling it because I looked it up right now. Like it actually was nominated for best comedy in the Emmys like 5 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
Like it won a handful. Helen Hunt won, I think, lead actress in comedy like multiple times during its run. So I think it actually is better than you are remembering it for being in terms of its accolades.
I misspoke. I just meant to say, like, it's not just because necessarily only on its merits that I'm voting Mad About You through. It's kind of also, how do I vote Ted Lasso?
If we had voted Big Bang Theory through, I would have also, it's obvious, I would have voted Mad About You over that also. Yeah. It's by the same principles. It would have been more of a typical matchup, I guess, is what you're kind of thinking of.
Mad About You.
I don't have much to add.
Is this sweet?
Yeah.
By the way, I just watched an episode of Always Sunny where they did a sitcom, and I was like, fuck, maybe we should have voted it through. It like nailed everything you would have wanted from sitcom satire. Anyways.
Well, it's gone, so screw you.
This first time saving always seems weird. I think it's because of the week in between. These are meant to be like live fighting game style tournament brackets where you can update them on the fly and stuff, and it seemed to freak out the first time. It did this last week, too.
You're saying that an entire week of time is not on the fly?
No, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be grounded, actually, the opposite of fly.
I also watched an episode where they did an entire, like, almost the whole episode was like one tracking shot of Always Sunny. Since I can vamp now, since we're stuck.
Why do I... You didn't watch any of Curb still, did you?
I haven't yet.
Okay,
we haven't
I just want to make sure that you were busy watching a show. Okay.
That we've already voted off even. Like, it's not even... It's like anti-homework. There's no reason.
He's still mad about that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But I do feel bad. I regret it.
All right, Dave, get out a pencil and paper and start tracking
Dave, you're going to have to manually tabulate, dude.
All right, that's fine. I've got it. I've got this.
For all you people with printed out brackets at home, this is your great opportunity to follow along.
Too.
Well, I am hoping people are following along, and like Warren Buffett did like $1 billion to the guy who picked the perfect bracket, that type of deal.
In the future, I might actually be able to make it so people can fill out their own brackets. Well, let's start talking about the next one, and I'll figure this out.
Yeah, I got it.
Next up is the 16 seed Family Matters against the 48 seed Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec done.
Oh God, this is tough. So
it's not tough.
We get into legacy versus kind of new stuff. Yeah, I mean, again, for I think partially for that video that we watched of the Key and Peele summing it up so perfectly, all the problems with Family Matters and what it became.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Parks and Rec is like almost perfect from seasons like 2 to 5. I'm comfortable voting Parks and Rec. Dave?
I don't know enough about Parks and Rec, but I also don't know enough about Family Matters either. So I'll go with Parks and Rec for the heights of which it supposedly has.
Not only did Family Matters become so much about Steve Urkel that it was a problem, it then also was like, you know what? We want to show Jaleel White, right? Is his name?
Yes.
That he's actually hot. So they like had like a plot device just to show Stefan. What do we even do anymore? And then problematically, what's her face fell for Stefan but didn't want Steve.
Why is
I was
that
like, well, that's vain. Well,
Laura.
because she's like, you're the same person, but now you're hot. And I like this version of you.
What was that about him?
Remember that whole...
He was the actor, basically.
It's the same person.
Yeah. Remember that whole lesson.
Did he take his glasses off and became like the hot girl thing?
He like walked in a machine and then he came out and he was Stefan, and his attitude was different too.
It was basically the Nutty Professor. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then well,
and I think they eventually banished Steve. I think he permanently became Stefan at the end of the show.
It was basically that lesson too that we want to teach all, red-blooded American males, that if you just persist after the same girl again and again and again, she will eventually fall for you.
Is that a bad message? Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's really been very many times when character falls in love with alter ego is a good idea. Yu-Gi-Oh is a prime example of this, which creates some kind of, I don't even know what you call it. First of all, we don't call things love triangles on this show anymore, but there's one girl who likes the grown-up Yugi, there's one girl who likes the little Yugi, but they're the same person effectively, but then again they're not, because one of them's a 5,000-year-old spirit. It gets complicated. The point is, it never works well because it's like, but they're really the same.
Yeah.
So you're just like, I don't understand
The
what we're
professor's
doing.
not like that though. He's skinny though. That's different. They're
I'm
not the
voting
same
for Parks
person.
and Rec. I'm glad Family Matters made it around. I think it was a deserving candidate
Yeah.
too. Parks and Rec's a really good show, even despite its bad first
Sweet.
season.
Family Matters is like one of the all-time classic
3-1, David, you go
sitcoms.
Family
No,
Matters?
no, I'm Parks and Rec.
Okay.
So 4-0. I got
4-0.
it. I got it.
It works now.
Oh,
So
it works.
we
Okay.
at the end of last episode,
done.
we were like, well, is there anything else we want to push through? And no, we don't see any more obvious 4-0s. I'm not saying these were obvious. I'm glad we talked about them, but they are both 4-0s so far. So we'll see.
I
Move.
said Parks and Rec was obvious.
I thought it was going to be 2, to be honest, but I wasn't sure about Dave just because he hasn't really watched it.
But
Next
I
up,
haven't watched Family Matters.
Ooh.
I can't see the seeds anymore if I open it, so hold
That's
on. Next up is the 8th seed Bewitched versus the number 40 seed Malcolm in the Middle.
That's weird.
40 seed just sounds great. I think I am gonna go with Malcolm in the Middle for its ability to stay consistently funny in kind of sometimes a dreary setting of this family that never had money and but still loved each other a lot. So I was surprised at how much humor they took from the characters there. Even though I really, really like Bewitched, if this was I Dream of Jeannie, I would vote for that over Malcolm in the Middle. But never mind. I was wrong. Just Malcolm in the Middle. Forget it.
I would say
Still
I like these both a lot. And they're almost about equal for different reasons. So I will actually give it to Bewitched just for the impact and the time it came out and the longevity and all of those kind of small things. Just gives it the slight edge. But I feel bad because I like Malcolm in the Middle.
I'm also voting for
Cody.
Bewitched.
All
Wow.
right.
Sean pretty much already took what I was going to say.
Wow.
Then I'm
Please
also
stop,
going
Sean.
with Bewitched. I mean, look,
Damn.
I like Malcolm in the Middle. If I'm picking which of these two I like more, it's probably
I
Malcolm.
would
But
agree.
as far as influence, again, we've taken this kind of holistic approach of, what was important, what was impactful, etc. Malcolm in the Middle is kind of forgettable, even though it's really good, I think. Did it really leave a huge footprint in the industry? I don't think so. Hell, its principal actor doesn't even remember it. Which is sad, and a thing I didn't know before last week.
I don't know
but
if that's fair, but
So unmemorable.
what I want to know now is people who weren't alive for the 90s, like kids, who maybe have seen Breaking Bad. So like teenagers, because they can't have kids watching Breaking Bad, who only know Bryan Cranston from that now, and now they go backwards and see him in Malcolm in the Middle and get weirded out in reverse.
Yeah.
That would be fun. But as it is, Bewitched is going through. Kind of a sitcom mainstay. We're going to see how far it goes in this bracket, but I don't think 2 rounds is unreasonable. Next up, the 9 seed Modern Family versus the 41 seed Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Malcolm in the Family.
Malcolm and the Bel-Air.
Malcolm in the dice in the mirror.
I'm going to make this easy. I think Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is like one of my top seeds of this entire thing. And Modern Family, I think, is really, really funny, but it already has all those problems that we've discussed. Kind of falls off a cliff. So, yeah, I mean, Fresh Prince for me.
What that guy said. Echo everything.
Yeah, I was
you
like,
just
do
said.
you want to dig more into Fresh Prince yet, or just?
I
keep
don't think we
waiting?
need to.
We
Look, Modern
don't need to
Family
for a 4-0.
is one of the most awarded shows on this list. It's a media darling, and there's a lot of things it has going for it. We talked about some of them earlier when it came up, but at the very least, this is also the wrong crowd for it.
Dude.
None of us are big into it, and a lot of us like Fresh Prince.
Quickly for Fresh Prince, we've talked a lot about having black families on TV and them getting out of network TV and things like that. A lot of them are just like blue collar, whatever things. Fresh Prince is showing a affluent, rich
Yeah.
black family.
Successful.
Yeah, a very successful family. And I think that kind of adds another layer to that. You see, rich white people all the time and all that shit. And then again, we can get more into it there, but I just thought that was something that also we hadn't exactly talked about yet while we had talked about Family Matters and a couple of the other shows.
And on that topic, I always kind of like the fact of Carlton was kind of who he was no matter what,
Yes.
even though Will tried to like people seemed like would make fun of Alfonso Rivero for being white, basically, even though I don't know, that was his character. He played it well. I thought it was kind of important to show that people are different. People know, no matter what they look like.
Yes.
Mhm.
This is a tough draw for Modern Family that might have had legs to go a second round.
That's what I'm saying,
Maybe
yeah.
even a third. It wasn't. I don't even think it was like a Elite 8 candidate, given some of the shows on this list. But it ran into this second round matchup and it's gone. So there's another 4-0. This is one that I actually was thinking about in the in-between because I don't know what I'm doing with it. And that's 61 seed, The Good Place, versus 29 seed Golden Girls. This is probably my toughest matchup of the second round.
The
I think
Good
I agree with you.
Place
That's the
did a
toughest.
very good job of not overstaying its welcome, which I think also deserves a lot of credit for a show that was really successful on network TV and its creator and principal person running the show refused to drive it into the ground any more than it needed to once it said what it needed to say, which I think gets it a lot of points for me.
This is really hard. Sorry, I just had a brain moment where like the clerk, the like guy who's like he's like the doorman for like hell basically, and they get him frogs. He really likes frogs.
Yeah,
Michael Malley.
He was also in another sitcom.
Yeah, his name was Guts.
No, he was in another sitcom,
He
and I remember
was,
him in it, but he played a totally
it
different
was-
character.
Yeah.
It was like it was named after him, I think.
He's been on television for my entire
He was like a
life.
side character though. And anyways, sorry, tangent. I made a connection.
He was also
I
on
wanted to say it.
ESPN when we were kids.
Interesting. Well, so
He was
here's
also
an
on Guts.
issue with this one where like The Good Place I like more than Golden Girls, but like Impact almost like zero. Like other than being really good, like what did it change? What did it like innovate? Not like a lot, even though it's awesome.
I don't know if you can totally say that yet, since we're not that far removed from it ending.
I guess.
Like, of these shows, is A Good Place the most recent one to end besides Lasso being actively going on?
I think so.
I think so. The
Why
Good
not?
Place
Yeah.
is interesting because, we talked about the typical sitcom of there's a lesson you learn at the end of every single episode. Well, Good Place is leading to one really big fucking lesson
Yeah.
at the end of its show, and it kind of has little bits of that all the way through, which I think do help in the.
And there's like twists. Like how many sitcoms legitimately do you
Well,
know
yeah, I mean, The Good
that
Place
like have twists?
has, I would assume, the best twist on this entire list for what it did from season 1 to season 2, completely blowing up its own show.
Yeah.
I'm voting for The Good Place, by the way.
Yeah, well, though that's what made The Good Place unique and groundbreaking in that sense is that let's take a concept and then after the first season, it's like, that concept we just worked on the entire season? No. We're going a whole different direction. And I love that for it. However, what Golden Girls was groundbreaking on is anytime you'd see old ladies on TV, they weren't snarky. They weren't, they weren't human. They weren't sexualized like they were. Or, like these are still like, hey, old ladies are still human almost. They're not just June Cleaver type of deal. So I think that's, I don't know. I thought that was relatively important in that. So I'm going with Golden Girls, even though I think I enjoy watching The Good Place more. But Golden Girls is still really funny. So I'm rolling
I think
with that.
we'll probably start getting into this. I've like reserved this argument of like rewatchability and how useful that's going to be. I do think The Good Place is rewatchable. Obviously, I did vote for it, but I would assume The Golden Girls is more rewatchable because of The Good Place's constant kind of theme. There's episodes you would want to rewatch a lot, but an out of context episode is really important, I think, from where we're getting into the bracket now. And The Golden Girls probably wins that.
Yeah, good call.
With so much, again, kind of like what I did before, like these are equal in so many ways when you measure impact and just what's funny, what mattered. I'm going to give the edge. What edges Good Place for me was just kind of like how I felt while watching it. It was, I was laughing, but even when I wasn't laughing, just like felt good. I liked the story. I thought it was interesting. I was intrigued. Maisie and I watched it. I was really sick one night. We were in Seattle and it was just like made me feel better. And so I'm going to give it to The Good Place.
Wow.
Except for Jason. Jason did not make me feel good watching him because he was too stupid to live.
What's nice is like,
dare
so
you.
we've talked about casts that are too dumb or characters that are too dumb before. And in this case, because everybody else is so smart, I almost feel like the dichotomy works better than it does in some other shows where other people are like average and then you have a couple dumbass characters. Here it's like it's almost necessary just to show this weird balance of what happens in the afterlife. Yeah, idiots can make it too.
He's also not, if you're now measuring characters who are stupid, he's like the smarter one of the too dumb to live pantheon.
He died because he thought a snorkel would help him breathe inside of a safe.
But
Spoilers.
I know, but-
spoilers. Here's the thing for me though. His dumb antics don't derail the plot. What I have a lot of resentment for most of the time is when idiot characters over and over again are used as a crutch for making like conflict. Which
Jar
is fine
Jar
on occasion, but then when it's like, okay, here we're going to do this thing, and here's this stupid character who's going to come in and ruin it like he always does. Like, I have no interest in that.
He also-
That stuff grates on me.
He also
Yeah, Jar Jar in
really-
Clone Wars, right? Like,
Sure.
That's a
They
horrible.
also really, really acknowledge that he's stupid. Everyone on the show knows how stupid he is.
I'm going to make this a tie. So, chat, we have Michaela's vote, but
Over.
Doug, Maisie, etc. I think this is extremely close for me.
Say dog.
season 1 of
Siri.
Dog.
The Good
Go for it,
Place.
dog.
Season 1 of The Good Place is, I think, peak television. And the twist at the end is still intriguing. I don't necessarily love season 2. It's probably my least favorite season of the bunch. And that's not to say I dislike it. I still think it's good. It doesn't dip like other shows do, but I'm still going to go for Golden Girls, and it's going to lose in a tie.
Yep.
Because the tiebreaker vote goes to Good Place. I'm not upset about that. Both shows I have no qualms with advancing. But it's a little sad to see these two in particular in the second round. Like Modern Family, I don't really feel that many qualms about losing. One of these two,
Yep, I feel bad.
it's tough.
Yeah.
Next up, the 52 seed Community against the number 20 seed Home Improvement. I'm going to be first. I'm going to say Home Improvement because, look, I think Community is really, really funny at times, but just because of a lot of the ups and downs we talked about last time and the cast upheaval, the showrunner upheaval, and the fact that its quality is so ebb and flow, peak Community is fantastic, but Home Improvement is one of my absolute favorites, and it was a pioneer of the 90s, so it's Home Improvement.
Was like pretty solid all the way through. I don't know a lot of dips Home Improvement had. I think they at times struggled once the kids started getting older.
A little bit. I watched a documentary on E! I think it was, about the whole show because that's how much I liked it. I was interested, and it talked about how eventually everybody started demanding more money. They wanted more time and stories about them and stuff, which happens, but especially with kids in the mix, yeah, it got a little bit out of control the last couple seasons.
But I think the finale was still pretty solid.
Yeah.
And sometimes the finale, they can derail on these. But yeah, I mean, I just, Community, I love. And there's so many episodes. The one where they didn't know the guy was a Nazi despite having a swastika tattoo. And
Sean says he rubbing his own tattoo.
Yeah, the swastika tattoo right here. And he's like, it's a windmill that I haven't finished yet. And a Law and Order episode where the character says, need I remind you, this is not a courtroom. A lot of really great moments, but yeah, I mean, Home Improvement is too good.
I'm voting basically all the same reasons you guys just said, except for the fact that I actually don't like Home Improvement that much, but I'm still voting for it because I never found Community that great outside of a few. It wasn't as consistently good as I would expect it to be. So
I think give it another shot at some point, Dave. But yeah, I mean, even I agree, and I watched pretty much the whole thing.
Yeah.
Other than some good, like, peak Community is super peak, but yeah, man, it has some lulls.
Sweet.
Thanks for your contribution.
We don't need
Are you gonna vote?
Yeah, is it sweep?
He said
Improvement.
sweep.
Oh, sweep.
Sweep.
We
Yeah,
all
I
thought
thought he
you
said
said
sweet.
Sweet.
Oh.
Sweep.
Sweet, dude.
My bad.
Great.
Sweet.
Thanks for your
Like,
contribution.
thanks, Peter Griffin. That's phenomenal. Really, really good contribution. All right, that's going to be another humdinger in the next round, but we're not there yet. Continue the second round.
What a bracket of those four.
Yeah,
That's so good.
this quadrant we talked about last
Uh-huh.
time, or whatever you want to call this, is a problem. The easier one, I think, is this one. The 5 seed Married with Children against the 28 seed Seinfeld.
This is the one we should have pushed through, probably, because do any of us really like Married with Children that much? And
No.
you can't even argue.
not
significance.
remotely to argue it for.
I thought
a minute
about
with
it.
Seinfeld.
I thought about raising it last week, and I thought this is the 5 seed. I think we have to at least bring it up, even if it's a quick 4-0.
I mean,
It's a quick
Married with Children-
4.
It was. I think it was significant for its time, but Seinfeld. I mean, you want to talk about a significant show? You want to talk about an all timer? There you go.
Both
Yeah.
shows make you feel bad for what
Yes.
that's worth, but
Yes, that's
Seinfeld
true.
does it better.
Seinfeld doesn't make me feel that bad.
Well,
I agree with them most of the time.
I can't get over we'll get to this later. We'll get to this later when we
We
talk
have
about
time.
Seinfeld more.
This one I don't think will take very long either, just given the cast and who's voting on this. However, it's the 12 seed Friends versus the 21 seed The Office.
To me, this is unfortunate.
It's not
I
for
can
me.
see both of these in a personal bracket because I know how Dave feels about Friends. Making it like these could make the final 4. I mean,
Yeah.
like they're both that good.
We have the right draw. They definitely could have.
With that said, I want to vote last, please.
I'm going to go put 2 on the board for The Office real quick because that's how me and Dave are voting.
3.
All right. So, Sean, you can make
Well-
it 3-1 if you want to just have it just reflect in the record that Friends put up a fight.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing.
Yeah,
if it
which
came
is
down
fine.
to it.
Look, I mean, Friends was definitely impactful. There's no question. That was probably the biggest sitcom of the 90s. Like, it was a tyrant. And it did a lot of things really well. And it was a career, not starter, but it made mega stars out of numbers of that cast.
Almost
But it's
all.
The Office. Like, when you think about anything else that does an homage to the documentary style, like, The Office wasn't the first, but it was damn sure the biggest.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, it's just we're talking like long-term influence and a show I liked more. It's The Office, and it's not super close.
Again, of the shows on this bracket that began because The Office was successful is The Good Place, is Parks and Rec, is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I can't guarantee you that any of those shows exist if The Office isn't as successful as it is.
Yeah.
Friends didn't necessarily spawn anything else on this list.
It just did.
It did very well for the individual careers.
Let me just say then what I love about Friends was they handled an ensemble really well.
Yes.
How many shows do you know where there are 6 characters that each feel like main characters?
Yeah.
I can name one more on this list, and that's it.
It's pretty rare. And Friends also did a really good job with like, even The Office struggles with this. They always want to return to the status quo in The Office. And I thought Friends did a pretty good job of like, you have roommate situation changing, you have couples changing. There's some big things where like characters develop and change over the course of the show. And I think it was really impressive. So it was a great run. You went up against a juggernaut, Friends. Don't lose sleep over it. You had a good run here.
I'm just glad it's gone.
There's no shame in losing in the second round. Look at, again, some of the shows that we've just eliminated, and it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Cheers already went through. So
Yes.
goodbye, Three's Company. Just as a reminder, Cheers made it through the next round, the 2 seed. We'll talk more about it later because it's going to have some problems. But here's a weird one. I forgot the seeds already. Okay, great. The 15 seed Roseanne against the 18 seed How I Met Your Mother. Now, I think the first episode of How I Met Your Mother is like really, 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 really good. I really do. Especially because like pilots often miss the mark or they don't set the same tone of what comes later when they're more comfortable. Like pilots sometimes are so helter-skelter. I love the first episode of this show, and I love many other episodes of this show. To me now, even the first episode is ruined by the ending, which was going to come up eventually.
And I'm not as bad with that. Like like Game of Thrones, I still am like, I recommend the first seasons for sure, even though it, completely falls off a cliff later. So for Dave loving this show and for the moments that it does well, I'm still going to vote How I Met Your Mother because I think its highs are better than Roseanne. I just was never that big of a, maybe we're the wrong bracket for Roseanne, but no. So I'll vote How I Met Your Mother as well.
I agree with you, Sean, in the sense that the ending took a lot of luster off of it. But I've gone back and just seen random episodes that's happened to been on TV or like when I've been out and I watch it and I'm like, oh yeah, man, that was funny. Like I think of stuff like The Slap Bet and how they kind of revolutionized a serialized sitcom that had ongoing elements through it. I don't think a lot of other sitcoms did that very well like this one did. And in the beginning, at least, this show felt like friends that hung out with each other. And it felt real almost in a sense. Like this is how friends would actually act with each other, unlike other shows that don't do that well. So, and Roseanne, while good and I think underrated for its time almost, I still vote How I Met Your Mother.
I think the genius of the setup in the bar is that it feels like you're sitting at that table. It feels like you have a chair pulled up to where the camera is, and you're just sitting alongside a group of friends that you've come to know and enjoy over time. I'm still going to vote for How I Met Your Mother, but it's on thin ice, and there's not a very good chance it's making it past its next matchup just because the whole conceit is the name of the show, and when they fucked up the ending that badly, to me, that scarred it beyond redemption for me.
This might be oversimplifying it, but I really feel like How I Met Your Mother is basically just Friends and Cheers squished together.
There you go.
And those are two of the better shows. They really were smart and stole a lot of stuff from 2 very, very good TV shows. Since it's going to move on, I won't dive into the issues I have with How I Met Your Mother. I'm going to vote for it over Roseanne anyway. But for a show I like a lot, God, I really hate some parts of it so much.
I have more issues than just the ending, but we'll get to it.
Exactly.
We also have to come to reckoning with the fact that like Barney's character is already kind of
problematic.
problematic.
That is one of my major
and that show's not that old.
It was bad at the time it was actively happening. There's an episode that really stands out in my mind that I can use as the example.
All right. We'll come back to it because it's coming back again. God damn it, I keep forgetting to look at the numbers.
Are we sure this wasn't going to go 4-0?
To me, this one's easy for Happy Days.
The 7 seed Happy Days, the 39 seed Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I love
easy for
Brooklyn
Happy Days.
Nine-Nine, but I cannot vote it over Happy Days. I just can't do that.
Dave hasn't watched B99. I would vote Happy Days over B99. Again, I think the show is funny and really well written at times, but it's Happy Days.
It's Happy Days.
A week
Don't be
away
sad.
from the bracket, and you're like, oh yeah, there was a couple more 4-0s than we thought.
Well, we were in the middle of it last week.
Yeah, and it felt like everything was so close. And look,
I think this next one.
I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine did well to make it out of a round. To be honest, I don't know that it should have beaten Full House, but it was the way the vote went, so that's okay. But
so Cody, you think this next one's easy?
Mm-hmm.
So,
interesting. Which way?
I think Sex and the City is going to win.
The number 55 seed Sex and the City versus the number 42 seed New Girl.
I don't like Sex and the City, but I don't know how I would vote New Girl over it.
I think New Girl is too flawed to.
I think it's a 4-0.
To upset the cultural impact Sex and the City had.
Exactly.
And it's 2 films. 3 films? And its follow-up show? Yeah, it's too much.
I think it's 2 films and follow-up.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I'll vote for New Girl just so it doesn't get swept.
Okay.
Because it is like my second funniest show on this list.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm being really honest, if the vote had mattered, I would have voted for Sex and the City just because of its long-term impact. So I'm only doing that to do exactly what Sean did earlier, which is prevent a 3-0 or a 4-0. All right, see, look, that was not too bad. It's only been, I don't know, 25 minutes, and we just cleared the longest round we have.
I will say, for New Girl, of all the characters on the show, Jake Johnson's character in New Girl is probably one of my favorite across all of these entire.
That's what I'm saying.
And we could easily do like a sitcom character or TV character bracket and all sorts of other stuff because he could be a strong contender there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's more down here. I thought that was quick.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
All right, well, that's fine. We are going at a good clip, though. So, next up, the number 3 seed, Frasier, against the number 30 seed, I Love Lucy.
I Love Lucy.
Yeah, you're not a big Frasier guy.
No, not at all. Speaking of people that are pretentious and not relatable on my television. Got it.
I mean, I Love Lucy for all the reasons we've been saying.
Yes.
The impact, and it's funny, and it has aged well. And
don't have a butt.
I love Frasier. I think it's so funny. Well, what are you thinking, Dave?
Oh, I mean, I'm with you. What you're saying, Frasier's freaking-tastic. It's funny. I think the characters are pretentious assholes who get their comeuppance plenty, which is why it's funny. The dad character, while being the simple man, is so right so often in his simplicity, which is something I love in that. But man, I Love Lucy is the fact that it is simple humor from the 50s that still makes me laugh to this day, makes that stand out to the point I'll vote for it.
So then I'll do the 3-1 thing, Chris, because I don't want Frasier to get swept.
Oh, I was voting for Frasier.
Oh no.
The way you talked about it, I assumed you were voting for I Love Lucy.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Well, then there you go. That's where we're at.
My introduction was, that I Love Lucy's great, but like I love Frasier. And Frasier, Cody, how many awards did Frasier win?
A lot.
Like 1 billion.
Tons. It was consistent. Yeah.
How many awards did Big Bang Theory win? A lot, because America's stupid.
Did it actually win a lot?
Yes.
Other than the Sheldon actor?
No, I think it won Best Comedy like over and fucking over again. Because I know The Office didn't win very many awards because of Big Bang Theory.
Wow, that sucks.
I'm voting for Frasier as well, but the tie is already going to I Love Lucy, so the number 3 seed is gone.
All right. Okay. I could have honestly lived with either one of those advancing, so that's okay.
I won't spend much time on this. I'm voting for I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, me too.
Agreed.
I mean, I feel like Drew Carey Show barely made it. Be happy to be here, Drew Carey.
Yep.
That was actually the one I wanted to 4-0 last time, and interesting matchup next for that. 2 classics. Our finals on the bottom side here.
This is a product of the time, isn't it?
The 6 seed MASH versus the 27 seed Scrubs. And look, I'm going to go first because I'm voting for Scrubs, even though I don't think it fits the spirit of this bracket. The problem is, we talked in the first round about how, while MASH is extremely important to the genre, I don't know that I ever found it to be especially funny. And, that's a preference thing. But its whole setup was kind of complicated from the start, right? It's wartime. So how much fun can you really have in the middle of this? To me, I've seen enough episodes of MASH to be like, it's good, but I feel like it's more of an artifact of its time that I don't think it stood the test of time very well. Let's put it that way. Others of these shows that we talked about, even like an I Love Lucy, I can pick up an episode and be like, yeah, like I totally get why this was totally awesome back then and revered and all that. I don't get it from MASH. So while it's a homer pick, I'm still going with Scrubs, even though I don't think it quite fits the spirit here.
I'm going to go with Scrubs. I don't even like Scrubs that much, to be honest. And I probably should vote MASH for the influence. But I don't know if there's a show if you gave me all of this entire pantheon and you said choose like the one show that you want to watch the least, it might be MASH. I don't enjoy it. It is unenjoyable for me. And I can acknowledge it's really good while also saying between the time and the and like the camera style and the humor itself and the too drab, too boring. I hate it. I don't like watching it at all. I'm sorry. Sue me.
Man.
Okay.
MASH was that show that was always on when I was a kid and I needed to go to bed, but my TV was on and I was just flipping through channels. It was like MASH was just on all the time.
I think
as a
it was
kid.
on
I remember,
AMC all the time. I feel
yeah,
like
it was just on. And so when I was a kid, I remember being like, I can remember the theme song of it and the helicopter flying in
Yep.
and be like, oh crap, where's the damn remote?
Yeah.
Because I needed to change it. And that's not fair to that. If we were all 15 years older, this might be a completely different vote here. But I'm voting Scrubs because Scrubs was constantly hilarious and hit you hard in the feels frequently.
Yeah, I mean, Cody, you gonna give
Sweep.
MASH a legacy vote?
no,
Nope,
absolutely
sweep.
not. Under no circumstance am I going to give
All
it
right.
a fucking legacy vote.
Again, I think
Get
it's
the
good that
fuck
MASH
outta
won
here.
around. It's the 6th seed, so it's it's a little weird to see it gone, but that's fine.
But honestly, most of this round is easy for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get a little tougher as we get down the stretch, but there weren't too many that I was super
I've had
torn about,
some
except that one.
Humdingers, but yeah, that one was not that bad for me at all.
11 seed Will and Grace against 43 seed The Nanny. This is kind of a juxtaposition of styles, but
I'm gonna give the vote here because they're similar in as far as impact and all of that. I enjoyed watching The Nanny more. It's just
I agree
that's mine.
completely.
I
agree completely. Will and Grace was fine. Megan McCauley, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Mulaney or something like that.
Sorry.
Nick Offerman's
Anyway,
wife.
her voice like hurts my ears even more so than Fran Drescher's,
Uh-oh.
which is amazing, but it's bad. But The Nanny was sneaky, like raunchy, which is I think funny in that sense of kind of how it was. I don't think it was perceived that way when it was on originally.
I was right.
Malali.
Malali.
Anyway, Andy is my vote.
I know there's been a bit of a resurgence for The Nanny in popularity, and people kind of looking back and going, it didn't get the credit it deserved. I'm still going Will and Grace. I don't know. I think Fran Drescher was very underrated, and she still annoyed the hell out of me.
Yeah.
It's just a personal preference
But I'm
thing.
glad, like, Will and Grace was pretty, like we said, it is influential, and it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. So I like that vote. I voted for The Nanny because I thought Will and Grace was going to get like 3-1. So
It's 2-2 because I'm voting Will and Grace.
Okay,
well, then-
Alright,
Chad.
The chat better wake up.
I bet Chad doesn't feel super strongly about either one of these, but let's see how it goes. This is your responsibility. You shape the bracket for whatever's going to lose in the next round.
chat, fucking wake up, dude.
I'm texting my
Maisie,
wife.
stop
just in case.
watching The Office. She definitely put it on.
Probably put on Always Sunny.
You
Oh,
both
boy.
are so helpful.
I have no clue.
Uh-oh.
There we go. We have Doug with The Nanny, and Courtney said, "Well, it said Will and Grace by this, but she's not on chat, so there you go."
And Michaela said The Nanny, so it'd be 2-1 anyways.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the nanny's eliminated by the Scrubs, so just
Yeah,
I
go
mean,
back up.
we can almost just do that.
Just
let's
take
just
it
do
right
that.
back
Is
up.
anybody going to vote for The
no,
Nanny? You can
again,
hear.
we talk about the brackets. We had some ended before their time. Scrubs, maybe we'll continue. I'm just saying personally, I don't love it, but it's 4-0ing The Nanny because that's easy.
Mm-hmm. I was going to have a problem in the next round, so don't worry. All right, that's the end of round 2. We did it, and
Okay,
now
so-
it just gets easier from here.
Yeah.
So now we go into round 3. We head back to the top of the bracket. We have the 32 seed Mad About You against the 48 seed Parks and Rec.
This
Sorry,
is
Mad About You. I'm
Easy
voting for Parks and
me,
Rec.
Parks and Rec now.
Oh,
And I like
this is
we talked about. I like Mad About You.
This is easy, Mad About You for me, but
Oh, great.
That's fine.
No one cares.
I
No one
like
cares
it
about
not
your
getting
problem.
As long
4-0'd.
as it's easy.
Yeah, no one cares for you.
That's the key word. Easy one way or the other. That's fine.
When we get down to the crux of a tough matchup for Parks and Rec, which, spoiler alert, will be the next round, that's when I'll talk about more of the specifics. But to me, I mean, Mad About You did well to make it 2 rounds. It's time to rest.
Yeah.
Bewitched and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Bye, Bewitched.
I think Bewitched has served its purpose.
Congratulations on surviving.
I
the
think this
first
is a
week.
4-0.
It is. It is. I
I'm
love Fresh
glad
Prince.
Bewitched made it 2 rounds. And knowing that this is the matchup that takes it out, I feel zero shame in that whatsoever.
no, that's fantastic. I'm very happy with this result.
But I tell you what, when we get to like the next round, this is going to start to get real dicey.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's already been some matchups that are. Almost all of these are going to be real tough, I think. Scrolling down a bit, this one I
This
think
is
is pretty
already
difficult.
really hard.
The Good Place, punch it above its weight at 61 seed. Home Improvement, the number 20.
Keep the Good Place going, man. Ugh,
I
Home
love The
Improvement
Good Place. I said it makes me feel good. It's great. I gotta go Home Improvement. It's excellent.
Since it is
Was
sitcom
it?
rather than just like comedy, and I think it has to be Home Improvement because I think it's the more actual idea of what a sitcom is at this
I don't know. The Good Place is a situation of being in the afterlife. I mean, it's a comedy of that
That's
situation.
true. It is the most situational of anything on this
right.
list.
You're right.
As much as I loved the first season and the ending of The Good Place, I did feel like they meandered a little bit in the middle seasons when they lost the tight narrative focus of just this specific town and all the things that are going wrong with it. So like that thin margin's enough for me to have it loose.
So you hated when they went to Australia?
I mean,
Or
not
New
hated,
Zealand, wherever the hell it was.
not hated. No, I there's not really any part of the show I didn't like. But to me, I found when we returned there for season 3, I was like, oh, good, this is back to what I really liked the most about it. And even then, it wasn't quite the same. But that's just my opinion. And again, I love The Good Place, but I don't know that it has any business advancing more than 2 rounds in this bracket. Moving
No.
down. Here's
now
a fun
now
one.
we have a problem.
Christ.
Seinfeld and The Office.
So, The
This
Office,
is a
I think,
finale for a lot of
is
people,
great.
right?
Other than like a season, God. So, Michael Scott left season 7. You had season 8 where Andy was the head of the office,
No.
right?
No. Will Ferrell is in
Season
charge
8.
of the office
Oh,
temporarily.
that's true. Well, yeah. There's a time before.
And then they go through the hiring process, and then Andy becomes the boss.
So there's a time
For
where
8.
Jim and Dwight start becoming friends.
Yes.
And for me, that's when the show starts to pick back up again. And other people might feel differently. They might care about other stuff. For me, that was like, oh, it felt like this is what we were building to this whole time, is like, it happens. The Robert California, which I did not think was a particularly strong
Fucking
arc.
disaster.
But at the end of that, when Jim fights Dwight to keep him out of the room where he's going to get fired, that for me is one of my favorite moments of the whole series. And it's in like maybe the worst time of the show. And then it just kind of goes from there. So I love everything about The Office. Seinfeld, yeah, I mean, it's great. It's the epitome of situational comedy. Just stupid shit happening all the time. But Seinfeld made me feel bad. And you said, like, why? The thing that always sticks out to me is when George kills his fiance because he skimped on the envelopes. And I was a little too young for that storyline, I will admit. But I was like, man, he doesn't even care. He's like,
He wanted out. He wanted out anyway.
Yeah.
Got
They
out.
gave him the out.
it was too much for me.
A surprising dip into dark comedy for a popular sitcom. No
George
question.
was dark the entire time.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
dropped a junior mint into someone's body during surgery.
And you know, maybe it was the time that I watched it. I don't look back and like, oh man, I'm excited to watch Seinfeld tonight. It was just like, it was whatever. It was The Office.
fuck?
You know, it was hooked. I was hooked completely. So yeah, I mean, Office for me, and it's not that close.
I feel like if I was 10 years older, like this would be easy Seinfeld. I feel like this is a generational thing, even though they were only apart by 10 years. I think that makes a huge difference in how you perceive humor. Although, again, something I really like is when people are assholes and they get their comeuppance. It's like, look, don't be an asshole. If you're going to be an asshole, like you're going to have bad things happen to you, or at least not good things happen to you. And that happened consistently to these people, I think, on Seinfeld. They never got what they wanted. But Seinfeld is one of those like, oh man, I can't believe they're in that situation. This is funny, even though I'm not laughing out loud. The Office is more, I'm laughing out loud. And if you want significance, it's there. So I'm going to go to The Office, even though I very much like Seinfeld.
I liked Kramer. What does that say about your personality if your favorite character is Kramer? I'm sure someone's wrote it like a
You're
dissertation
fucked up.
about
It,
it.
me- it means you're a racist because of
Means you're
him.
fucked up. Yeah,
Well, but
racist,
okay,
yeah.
that was him in real life, and I didn't know that when I was young, right? I
It
liked
didn't-
his,
it didn't happen
I
when you
liked
were
his
young. It happened like not
entrances.
that long ago.
Right,
Yeah.
a few years ago.
It means you like chaos, I guess. You like the
Perfect.
absurd. a little bit.
Actually, that's great.
Seasons 1 through 5 of The Office are like chef's kiss.
Mhm.
And the problem is that
2 through 5.
yeah,
No, I don't know. 1 through 5 for me.
It's
I would
first
say
season is
I would
not
say
good.
1 is the
No.
weakest of the first 5, but I'd still say 1 to
First
5 are all really
Dude, you
good.
got to go back and watch season 1.
I have.
Episode 1 is not that great. Everything else is like awesome.
I don't know. Michael Scott doing an Asian impression in the award show is just like, ugh. You want to talk about not being able to be on TV nowadays? Holy crap!
Well, the entire Diversity Day episode is
Yes.
built because he's fucking an idiot.
So like the problem is for the good that Sean already kind of alluded to, like Jim and Dwight and a few other arcs that are really solid. There's also Andy in season 6 and 7, who is probably one of my most loathed TV characters.
Man, you've never said anything that we've agreed on more than how much I fucking hate it.
Because for all the stuff we just talked about, like a really like cringe humor thing with Michael and like racial undertones, right, or just overtones. In this case, it's like not only does everything he does cringeworthy, but I hate all of it. None of it is funny to me, and I just want him off my television.
Yeah.
In wrestling fandom, since Cody's here, we call that go away heat. You want to get a response from the audience. So whether you're a heel or a face, like you just want to get them to cheer or boo or whatever. This was get the fuck off my television. I don't even want to react to you.
And I think they realized it, and that's why they channeled him to literally be the villain.
Yes.
In like the very tail end of the season.
Except for my big problem, I'll just save my problems with The Office when I actually want it to get eliminated, because it's not going to get eliminated right now with where the chat's going.
I think it's going 4-0.
I'm voting Seinfeld.
Okay, 3-1's good for Seinfeld. I like that.
But so I won't spend my time on shitting on parts of The Office that I have problems with.
Okay, great.
I would just say, despite my massive problems with the later seasons, there are good in them, so they're not terrible, but there are big problems. Season 8's the Robert California thing you also already mentioned. Like, I like James Spader a lot. I didn't think he was good in the show at all.
No.
And those are tough shoes to fill, no question. Like, that's, again, like a Pantheon type role. But I'm still voting for The Office just because Seinfeld, I mean, I get why people love it, and in a different bracket it would win, but it's not our group. It's not.
Yeah, look, some people say Seinfeld's one of the best shows ever made.
It is.
Yeah.
Ever. I'm not
I
one
think
of
that
them,
could still be
but-
true, but I still don't think.
It made it pretty far, Cody.
Yeah.
Not far enough. It's fine. The bracket was rigged.
Cheers and How I Met Your Mother.
Time to shit on How I Met Your
It's time
Mother.
for How
Okay.
I Met Your
All
Mother
right.
to go to sleep. I'm voting for Cheers.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want to go first? Or should I go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I really like Cheers. First of all, How I Met Your Mother so often rubbed me the wrong way, Dave. And it's not just the ending. I didn't even watch the ending. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Dave, because you're the fan of How I Met Your Mother. Here's one example. There was an episode where the one Jason Segel's character's dad dies. I think the dad was from Coach. I'm putting together
He
right
is
now in my
Patrick Starr's voice.
That's really funny.
Bill Funger, whatever.
Yeah. So the whole episode is building towards he didn't get the voicemail, right? And I'm like, wow, this is really powerful, actually. And actually, it's funny we're talking about how the endings can change the perception of the whole thing. The end of the episode, on an otherwise pretty good episode dealing with grief and loss, he gets the voicemail, and then everything is fine. So you rob the character of any agency, of any overcoming this idea that it didn't fucking matter. The whole point was he showed you in his life how much he cared about you. It didn't matter what the voicemail or not. And then, it turns out he got the voicemail anyway. And you're like, you just ruined everything. And it seemed to happen all the time.
And to top it off, they actually end the voicemail on a nice note and then still have to write another fucking joke. And he's like, no, my dad's last words were this second to last sentence, not the last one. They just wouldn't actually let it land, which is why I'm going to brag about this with Scrubs later in terms of balancing comedy and drama, because Scrubs did it pretty well. So now, do I get a shit on How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
The
You have
floor is
35
yours.
seconds. Go for it.
Wait,
All right,
can I
so
say
there's
one thing first? Just one thing before. Sean, funny thing is you've told that exact story twice already on this show.
That's fucking
when
I
talking
know
about-
Dave is
I
pulling
didn't remember
receipts on
twice.
me.
I knew once.
And secondarily, I agree with you wholeheartedly in that because they actually did the voicemail where it was all just nothingness. It was a butt dial. And if it would have ended, it would have been like, I didn't need him to say that. And then they had to because they had to go to the lowest common denominator because it was network TV. So I agree with you. Anyway,
Yep.
go ahead, Cody.
Yep.
Okay. There's an episode of How I Met Your Mother, and it reveals Barney's backstory. And it shows that he's a hippie and all this, and he gets mistreated, and the girl leaves him and all that stuff. And so then he goes back, he runs into her, and the whole principal topping off point is he fucks her and then leaves her behind again to get back at her. And
I saw that episode. It was
and
an
that-
older woman, right?
No, I mean it's someone his age, but she has a kid now.
Okay.
And the whole thing is that's the comeuppance. I'm like, so you're a piece of shit. You explained why you're a piece of shit, and then to top off the episode, you're a piece of shit. And I used to think that was really funny, and I think I don't know when all of a sudden it clicked. Was like, wow, that's really fucked up. This is basically just Entourage on network TV. That's what Barney basically is an Entourage character dropped into Friends or something like that. There's multiple other reasons. I hate Robin's character. I hate her so much. Barney's not that funny. And then just like you were saying with how they do Marshall's dad, they want to let Barney develop as a character. And then like, no, it's too funny if he's a shithead. So we're going to pull back on every little character development after we start to do it. And I got tired of the back and fucking forth of it.
That will happen a lot in TV.
I also realized like, I don't love Ted's character a whole lot, but at least he's like, I don't know, written somewhat developing in a way, even though he goes back to Robin every time. The last thing I will say is I can't believe that How I Met Your Mother actually cast the fucking mother correctly and then still fucked it all up, which I think I've already said, but I just have to drive that point home. Done.
What a perfect casting. And again, the first episode ends with like, and that kids is How I Met Your Aunt Robin. And you're like, oh shit, because it seems like the whole episode is leading to like those two, that's the mother. And then like this is going to be like about their relationship. And then we find out that's not the case. So the whole series builds to this moment. It's the name of the fucking show. And like, I think the ending has been run into the ground, and yet I don't feel like it's gotten enough hate somehow.
Which again, that last season is actually good because Christina Milioti is really fucking good in her whole run.
I'm a huge advocate of people that create stories having the right to tell stories the way that they want to. But for me, I almost feel like it's incomprehensible. Like, forgetting what other people wanted. Like, to me, it doesn't even make sense with the story you built. So forget whether I like it or not. It feels so narratively dissonant with everything else you did in the show. It's like, what the fuck was the point? This whole 9-season journey, why did we come on it?
The problem is, I think that they outsmarted themselves, because the whole idea was we're going to throw this twist in the first episode. Man, people are going to talk about that. And then at the end, we're going to twist it again to show them that they were really supposed to be together, forgetting the fact that they built all of these seasons to show they weren't supposed to be together. And I agree with you completely, Cody, in the sense that I hated Robin's character. She was... I don't understand, like, she's supposed to be this desirable person who's, like, everybody wants. I'm like, I don't get it. What? She's kind of a shithead, and she actually belongs with Barney.
Yeah. The very last thing I will say is there's something else they did. I liked Victoria a lot in that when her character is really good. And they chose to because everyone's like, oh, well, maybe he should have just ended up with her. They put her back in the show and then make her fucking terrible. So you hate her because they wrote her too well and then they wanted you to. There's just so many things of like what they undid of stuff that just drives me insane.
That show could be the pantheon of shows had it lasted 5 seasons.
Yes.
And then stuck the landing? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It really could have. Because it had a huge cultural impact. We just spent this much time talking about it. Like, it was a titan, but then it crashed into an airfield at the end.
I mean, look, How I Met Your Father. Talk about impact. Holy cow.
Yeah, and now we just talked about that 70s show, which, of course, spawned that 80s show. That 90s show got announced this week. So, like,
sure
there's
oh, my God.
all sorts of things happening. Almost all the cast is coming back, except for one who's...
The rapist?
Yeah, that's the one. Dave, are you going cheers here?
So the only thing I'll say real quick is I agree with you that Barney's a complete shithead. He was the comedically a shithead. Like the only problem I had was they made you feel for him so much, and he had his daughter at the end because Neil Patrick Harris is a great actor, obviously, and like made you feel for him. But like, yeah, he should have gotten a lot more shit than he did for being a comic character, basically. And I think most people, the not dumb ones, understood that that's not how people act and that he was just a comic character, basically, and not a real person. But they still should have had more bad things happen to him. Marshall slapping in the face was great, though, I will say.
Stops giving.
I will go just give the vote to How I Met Your Mother because I think there are so many good things about it, even though there are a lot of bad things. Every show has good and bad.
I think you should, Dan. I would have been mad if you didn't give it to that.
I think that's respectable. There's no shame in it not being 4-0'd. I mean, look where it did to get to this point where it was 2 4-0s. And we haven't really talked about Cheers yet. We will eventually, probably in the next round because it's going to go up against a big one. Like, sorry, Sex in the City, but it's Happy Days.
4-0.
Yeah.
4-0.
Okay, I didn't know what you guys were going to do, but thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
It's done. It had its run. It's important, but no.
Sex in the City made it 2 rounds in a bracket being run by mid-30s guys. So, like, that's pretty good.
Early 30s.
No, you're mid.
Early.
I'm late 30s now.
I think that's great. We're going to have to talk about both these shows, Cheers and Happy Days, when we get there. But that means we are now, I believe, in the quarterfinals. Am I not? Am I correct on that?
There's nothing more.
There's more down below. God damn it. The problem is this thing doesn't scroll properly. So we have one more to fill in down here because there was Scrubs, but I forgot this one, which is a doozy still.
4-0. 4-0.
It's not going to be 4-0.
I love Lucy, I would say.
I love Lucy.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll go for Jeannie.
I don't think we actually talked about I Dream of Jeannie that much. I think it was I mean, Barbara Eden was a really good character. She a really good actress, played her role well. It had funny situations of the genie always just screwing things up, which I thought was just funny in the sense of her misunderstanding human culture. But still, it wasn't as funny as I Love Lucy. So I just had to say something about it at least.
That's fine.
I'm glad you did.
Like Bewitched was weird just because of the magic, like obviously given the title. This was such a unique situation, especially at the time. Like, my God, when you think about just like the one paragraph synopsis of the show, you're like, wait, what? But because of that, they had so many fun scenarios they could put him into that, to me, I mean, look, I Love Lucy as a Titan. I have no qualms with it advancing, but I'm not going to let it 4-0 I Dream of Jeannie.
It's fair.
So that's where this is what's nice. We can give it, a 3-1 based on one person being like, no, I really like that show, so it's going to lose, but
Yeah.
All right, now we should be in the quarterfinals because we have I Love Lucy and Scrubs sitting down there. Let's scroll back to the top. We're down to 8, correct? Yep. So just to refresh for our audio listeners who can't see the bracket, we're going to go through each of these, obviously, but 48 seed Parks and Rec against 41 seeds Fresh Prince. 20 seed Home Improvement versus 21 seed The Office. 2 seed Cheers versus 7 seed Happy Days. The chalk emerged from that part of the bracket somehow.
Wow.
And 30 seed I Love Lucy, which again would be seeded higher if we talked about impact, versus 27 seed Scrubs. These are some interesting choices. You would certainly argue that there are 2 or 3 shows that should be in this that are not, and that's a byproduct of the bracket. But I'm not really upset with the 8 that we have.
No.
Let's go back to the top and start with, because these are going to take a little bit of time, but that's okay because I plan on this going to about 9. We have 8 left. So let's start with Parks and Rec and Fresh Prince because, hoo boy.
Is this? Oh, I thought there was one more higher than it. Okay.
I'll go real quick and just my vote. I think already. I didn't watch Parks and Rec that much, so Fresh Prince is a titan of the 90s. So there, I'm out. I'm done. You guys.
I think Fresh Prince is excellent, and I love Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec, but I don't love it as much as The Office. And
it's better than The Office.
I think Fresh Prince is stellar. So
Parks and Rec is better than The Office.
Yeah. I don't think that's true, Cody.
It is better.
So
I
voted. I've done my
tough.
job.
I don't really know how I feel about this one because it's like a razor thin wire difference to me.
I can solve that problem for you.
You're just gonna go Fresh Prince and move it out of the way. All right, then I can go with Parks and Rec and
okay. So you were saying Parks and Rec is better than The Office, but
didn't I want to eliminate The Office in the last round?
Yeah, but not compared to Fresh Prince. Okay,
no, because
good.
Fresh Prince is, I think, in my opinion, probably going to win. And I think it probably should win.
Yeah.
It's, like if I was looking at all these.
Yeah. All right.
All I'll say about Parks and Rec is like, okay, we talked about season 1. It's bad. Chris Pratt became a star and now has kind of fallen off. But, the fact remains, we talked about the cast, what a heavy-hitting show it was. I think I'm the one voting for this, even though I'm not a big Aziz Ansari guy. So there are demerits to Parks and Rec that I really don't mind it being eliminated here, but it's again one of those like 2-3 funniest shows on this list to me.
I think it's excellent.
But
I was
gonna say real quick, just like the last thing, I'm not voting for Fresh Prince, but to me, it's the same thing as Scrubs, where it nails that balance of comedy and drama, to where you care and laugh at the same time, and that's rare in these, as we've seen from a lot of the ones that got eliminated.
Yeah,
you can be funny. And you can have dramas that make you care, but the overlap is pretty thin on this list.
Yep.
So I'm happy it's advancing.
Parks and Rec's last season also doesn't
until the finale.
It's not. I don't. What's the point where they flash forward? Is that the entire last season, or is that
last season?
And then there's
skip
the
over
further
Leslie and Ron's fight, and then they jump even further for the finale.
Which I thought did a nice job of correcting, but the rest of the last season is a little bit weaker. Yeah,
it's
season
a little
1
bit
bad.
weaker. It's not bad, but the construct of the joke, like, can you believe this random stupid thing? And I was like, this is not a funny
the
joke.
episode when Leslie and Ron make up when they're locked in the Parks office is a really, really good episode of TV. I believe Andy's weird Johnny Karate Fun Time show, I think, is a full episode in that last season. Really weird standalone episode, but it's really good.
Yeah.
What we're seeing is shows that were on thin ice and limped to the finish almost all suffered for it.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec,
Community.
Scrubs, Community.
Yep.
I've had other examples when I was starting that sentence. I forgot them already.
How Met Mother.
The Office's ratings were not good once Carell left.
Right.
They were struggling.
And How I Met Your Mother wasn't really on thin ice. Like, it was still doing pretty big numbers.
It was a fucking CBS show.
So but I mean, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like shows that had to change networks, had to go to streaming, had to fight to survive, like petitions. almost all of them, and Chuck, who didn't make this list because it was an hour long, is another huge example of this. Just they tried to end it, and maybe the ending was good, but that last season is just an outlier. In
I would say
almost every
Arrested
time.
Development probably too, right?
Another good example,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Where it's like
Oh, that
it
was
wasn't
weird
quite
for the
good
kid
enough to
back.
hang on in conventional television. It found a second life. Hell, I would even say Family Guy, who had its hiatus way back towards the beginning after what, season 2,
I
3?
can't believe that show is still on
3.
TV.
But like to me, there's that clear divide. It comes back and it doesn't have the same. So like it's tough for Parks and Rec because it's another one of those examples of a show that was beloved and probably didn't get the credit it should have. But
Yeah,
Yep.
to its credit, Parks did a very good job of addressing some pretty serious issues in a very comical way. I mean, the obvious one off the top is like gay marriage and it being through penguins. But like
Yeah.
they do a lot of talking about some pretty serious shit, but do it through the guise of animals or whatever weird way you want to do it. And that I think was pretty progressive.
I also want to say now that Parks and Rec is dead, the way I'd almost laid the ground for like The Good Place in some ways in my head, because it like told a plot, or it eventually did. In season 1, it was like, hey, we're just in this office, and then season 2, you started with like the election, and it was like there's actually like a plot line that you cared about, along with it just being funny. So it was a great show.
Also got better as they added in Rob Lowe and Adam Scott,
but
which was
so much.
well, that's part of why season 1 doesn't work and the rest
Yeah.
do. That's,
I mean, there's a really good run of episodes in season 2 without them, but
Yeah.
adding those two guys into the almost makes it a refreshed show going into season 3,
Completely.
and then gives you a couple more seasons of basically a whole new dynamic. And I don't know how many shows add in primary characters who end up both marrying two of the other primary characters in any of these shows. How often do you have a new character dropped in and they are just a fixture in it for the rest of its run?
it's rare.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oof.
so we have
Oof.
next to each other in terms of number of episodes, 20 seed Home Improvement, 21 seed The Office. I don't know where I'm going with this
I
one.
don't know why you
Can I shit
guys
on The
think
Office
this
real
is
quick
so
then?
hard.
You know,
Like so far, the first two matches have been easy.
Yeah, you don't like Home Improvement. So that's
Exactly.
why.
There you go.
Let's put that
Office.
one on the board.
Oh, yep.
Well, the thing is, these two, they're below me on the screen, but both love The Office quite a bit. But like Sean also really likes Home Improvement.
Yeah.
I like The Office a lot. I don't love The Office, but I also feel like it should maybe have a case over Home Improvement. So it's like, do I weigh impact, the careers that came through it, and the other shows that have copycatted its approach, or just the one I liked a little bit more? I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for other people to vote to see what I feel like.
I'm voting for The Office because it's going to die in the next round and then I can shit on it.
Wasn't The Office responsible for like I don't this might be overselling it, but like saving Netflix? Like this was like a huge thing for Netflix. Like everybody
Streaming exists in the way it does probably because The Office's rights were so valuable. And
Yeah.
and like we moved off of, well, yeah, I'll just buy the box set DVDs of all of them to where I can just sit here and pay you $9 a month and I can rewatch the same 80 episodes over and over again. And The Office is basically the principle like behind that, which if you want to go real in depth on media history, do all those streamers start creating actual television shows to build a network basically with the syndication they have? Because basically Netflix was a very like a syndication company that just used everyone's DVDs and all that, and then started making its own content, which then Hulu started making its own content, and then Prime did. And then everyone else was like, who's not even a streamer, is now making things for their streaming platform specifically. And almost all that shit goes back to Netflix going from a DVD model to a streaming model, and The Office being really the staple behind that. Because I remember when Seinfeld went up for streaming rights, I think, and it went to Hulu for a long time. Hulu built its fucking platform on Seinfeld exists, and that was because The Office had made so much money for Netflix.
Yeah,
So I think you're
staple
right.
is a great word.
Yes.
Netflix became a staple, and The Office was a staple of Netflix. And
Yes.
so, these are so close. I really love Home Improvement for all the reasons I said already. It's going to come down this one for me. What would I rather watch if it was on TV? And the answer is it's 100% The Office.
Millennial.
I'll give Home Improvement a vote just so it's not 4-0'd. I think I would probably pick The Office, gun to my head. So since we're killing off Home Improvement, let me say the one thing I always loved the most about that show was that pretty much everybody gets shit on, and it all happens immediately. So like Al is a punching bag for the entire show. But if you really go back and watch it, when Tim takes a shot at Al, he immediately gets a crack right back at him. And both of them get a response from the audience because it's just like, haha, a little barb here, a little barb there. It's the same with the kids in Tim, his wife in Tim. Nobody is just a punching bag and they just like take the brunt of the jokes. And to me, like Wilson gives me that pathos that a lot of these other shows have talked about. Because he's kind of weird. He gets to just wax poetic over the fence and, be all philosophical and shit, but he also gets to be the moral base. And he gets to offer insight to this weird family situation when someone just wants to wander out in the backyard. And in the later seasons, it wasn't just Tim all the time. Most of the time, it was everybody else because he just became this, old wise man who could help rectify a situation.
Mr. Feeney.
He was, and I actually love Al is my favorite character on that show. I think he's so funny. I think Jonathan Taylor Thomas had his own writer because his barbs were so consistently good all the time. Here's a reason I feel a little bit better about voting The Office. With Home Improvement, and you can say this on a lot of these shows, but you definitely get into about 2/3 in the episode, Tim goes to talk to Wilson. Wilson has advice. Tim then tries to apply the advice, but he botches it. It is the same joke structure every episode of the entire
that's what
show.
most of these sitcoms from the 90s
but
and 80s
you really feel it so much in the Home Improvement. So while I love it, I will say that sort of shallowness and that it allows me to feel good about The Office.
To be fair, The Office would have been the same thing had they kept doing Michael fucks up inside The Office, New Day, he's an idiot, whatever. They obviously started to branch out of that pretty quickly.
I don't know if the British one did that.
No, because the British one didn't last long enough to. It didn't have a long enough run, so it never did.
Remind me of something. Did Tim and his wife actually like each other, or they hate each other in Home Improvement? I don't recall.
They mostly like each other.
They mostly liked each other.
Okay.
She would give him grief a lot for his crazy power tool destroying the house. But they did clearly love each other and also enjoy each other's company.
And support each other, which is a thing that we don't see from a lot of these other couples.
You'd get a random line about remember when we met, we stayed up all night talking, and I was like, oh, that is really nice.
Happy Days had a little bit of trouble in the beginning because it ran into Arrested Development. Ever since then, it's been a 4-0 juggernaut. Except now it's running into the 2-seed Cheers, and that means that's the end of me voting for Happy Days.
Me too. And I love Happy Days, but man, Cheers is special. Cheers is hilarious.
Yep, same thing.
And you talk about career building. I mean, at the very least, what's
Kelsey Grammer,
Ted Danson. I almost called him Tony Danza. That's wrong.
I would like Cheers less if it was Tony Danza.
And then Woody Harrelson is the other unusual one.
Mm-hmm.
Hold me closer, Tony Danza. Anyway, man, I didn't see that going that way because Happy Days, I feel that way about Happy Days. I remember watching that show when I was a kid and constantly enjoying it. The weird situations that they get into. It got weird at the end when the Fonz became a superhuman, basically. But I always liked. I liked the moral of it. I liked Tom Bosley's character being, the moral center of that and kind of teaching everybody a lesson. I think Richie Cunningham was a relatively relatable character in the sense that he had his flaws, but he tried to do the right thing all the time. It was an enjoyable show. Cheers. I don't know that I watched it enough to fully appreciate it, or when I watched it when I was younger and didn't get most of the jokes. I remember Ted Danson's character was kind of a real sleazebag in a lot of them. So
that's his thing. He's a sex addict.
Yeah, exactly. He's a really. I remember there was one where he was constantly going after. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. I think it was Rebecca. He was always going after her, and then she finally giving in. It's like, okay, you can have me. And he starts to go after her, and she just lays there. And he's like, this doesn't feel right. It's like, no, it doesn't, you asshole. Anyway,
that's fair.
I think it's fine that it doesn't get 4-0'd. I just think the problem with look, I was a big Happy Days advocate in the earlier rounds, but the problem is the Jump the Shark, the fun stuff is almost half the show.
Yeah, and then Joni Loves Chachi, and then that was really bad too.
Whereas the spinoff of Cheers is Frasier, which is excellent.
Which is the 3-seed. Now, we can't give Cheers extra credit for that, but it's still a footnote that's important to Cheers' run.
Dave, there was a Jeopardy episode that I think you would like of Cheers.
Oh, yeah. The one where Cliff is on Jeopardy?
Yeah, and it's all deals with sports or mailman stuff.
He's just destroying it. Yeah, it's great.
And then he bets it all in Final Jeopardy and
Yep.
loses.
Speaking of Cliff and people whose careers took off really well,
Oh yeah. Well, him and Pixar.
he's a voice in every Pixar movie.
Yeah,
Everyone.
That's absolutely true. Took
You
me a second
were
to
looking
connect.
at me like I was fucking
It
crazy
took me
for a
second
second.
to connect I thought you were making
Yeah.
a joke at first. And,
No, I was like,
okay.
if you look at, I mean, how much money his movies have made, he's probably up there with one of the all-time people because he's in every fucking Pixar movie. Not that
Yeah.
he's a main character, but
Yeah.
he's the pig's voice, right, in Toy Story.
I'm gonna vote I Love Lucy. Again,
Wrong.
the classicness, and I probably like Scrubs the least out of all three of you, even though I do still think it's a good show.
You're wrong.
This is
it's
I Love
Scrubs.
Lucy and Scrubs, by the way. You figured it out from the clues.
Oh yeah,
but
sorry.
Our last quarterfinal matchup.
Sean's wrong about.
Cody's going to go Scrubs here.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, all right, okay.
I know this.
I know which way Chris is going. I think.
You might be surprised. Nope,
This
you're
bracket's
right.
going to.
Nope, you're right.
This bracket is going to encourage me to go rewatch the entire series of Scrubs again.
Oh
I haven't
man.
watched it for a while.
This is the toughest one I've had so far because I loved Scrubs so much when it was on. Like Scrubs was consistently, I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm not angry at any of the characters. It wasn't like, man, I can't believe this character's on screen. I wish they'd give less screen time to this person. Through most of the run until kind of later seasons, I think when Aziz Ansari got in there, and obviously the 9th season, which was terrible. I liked all the characters. I Love Lucy is just so classic. I have a hard time not voting for it. It's like, it is the sitcom. It's the first one, basically. So I think by the slimmest of margins, I'm going I Love Lucy, even though I love Scrubs.
Okay, chat. This is
a big one.
Big
It's a
time.
really big one. Has implications down the bracket as well.
Tug, I
Sure does.
swear, where-
Michaela's in.
One vote for two votes for Lucy.
Voter fraud. Stop the vote.
Hey, wait a minute.
Where the hell is your wife?
I'm pretty sure she died.
That's great.
Like she's asleep. I think I
My
got a
wife
text
at least
saying
had-
I'm really tired.
My life at least had to put the kids to bed. I'm gonna
Dave.
text her anyway.
Same question
Yeah,
to
you can text your wife. She can chime in that way.
I am doing that.
You'll have to show the
So-
screen, though. Not that I think you would lie, but, just for the veracity of this whole process.
I mean, she
Oh,
voted
thank
Will
you.
and Grace over
Maisie!
Elvia.
No!
I'm sorry I asked you to vote. Go back to bed.
Doug went with Lucy. That's two
Oh,
Lucys.
oh,
minus
wait.
Scrubs.
Though. So this
Oh,
could
we
be
have a wild Michael has entered the chat.
this could be Courtney's vote then. I think it's 2-2.
It's
well,
it's
hold on.
implied that it's 2-2.
She read the text. She put I Love Lucy.
Damn! Wow.
There it goes.
She's
The
always been a huge
thinnest
fan.
of margins.
Guess what? Both of them are getting crushed by Cheers in my book, so I didn't actually care that much. I don't think it's that close. So that's okay.
Okay.
So since Scrubs is dead, I will say this much. It has its missteps. Season 1's almost a little bit too goofy until it finds the right balance. The will they, won't they with fucking JD and Elliot gets obnoxious at times, which the showrunners have even admitted. Like, yeah, we weren't sure. Like, fans always wanted them together, and we didn't really. By the end, it's done phenomenally well, but it has its missteps. I just love the overall cast. This is the other show I was talking about when we talked about, there's 6 principal actors. 7 later, when the janitor of all people becomes a main character, and they all have screen time, they all have balanced storylines, it's all worthwhile. So,
The janitor was supposed to be a fucking imagination.
yeah.
He wasn't even supposed to be a real human.
So the only thing what you said with the will they, won't they with JD and Elliot, it felt so forced at the end when they were like, "I love you so much." It's like, bitch, you tried this before. Like, you've gone through this a few times. This wasn't supposed to work. I didn't like that
There
they
we
ended up
go.
together.
That's
Never a fan of it.
So we will do a match for third place, by the way, since there's so many teams. It seemed like it seemed like it was fair.
Okay.
So that's what that's about. But here, I forgot I had
Congratulations
this.
to The Office winning the bronze medal.
I forgot this had the 8-man approach. So now we can just see what was the Elite 8 and on. We go back to the top half. We're in the semifinals. 4 shows left.
This is the hardest for me, easily, of this entire
Do
tournament.
I get to shit on The Office yet?
Well, I would like to go not first.
Great.
I'm
I
voting
mean,
for Fresh
Dave
Prince.
is not going to vote The
Oops.
Office.
Okay, I'm voting for
Nope.
Fresh Prince. Dave is voting for Fresh Prince.
Well,
Correct.
then, Sean, you get to
So,
decide
I'm
if it gets a
doomed.
gentleman's sweep or an actual
Yeah,
sweep.
I will a gentleman sweep it then. I will say, for all the reasons.
What?
And I don't even feel that bad about it. Like, to lose
What?
to Fresh Prince, that's okay. But, man, The Office is
Okay.
great. The Office may be number one on this list of if it's on, I will watch it.
Of any season or just the ones that are actually good?
Generally speaking.
Can I now say that The Office got so far up its own ass with its bravado of thinking that it doesn't matter what we do? Like, it cast so fucking badly on its back end of its run. I will rewatch the series, and I can't get through the end. Which means I haven't actually watched the finale of it that many times.
The finale is actually
Because
really good.
It is really, really good.
Except
But-
for Kelly and Ryan.
Why? That was the
They were
ending we
supposed
should
to be
have had.
awful.
That was what they were supposed to do. Nellie got the baby, and she abandoned the baby. It's fine.
They did maybe borderline the worst thing out of any of these
Yeah,
shows.
but they were.
Entire thing.
Ryan is actively a horrendous.
Yeah,
person,
he is.
So that's the right thing.
He's the worst. He's a criminal, basically.
But they just leave a baby. They
Yeah, well,
just
but Nellie-
leave a baby.
Nellie wanted a baby. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not actually defending that. That's part of my point of they got so far up their own
Yeah,
ass
I
with some of
mean
the things they chose to
that's
do.
fair.
Spader's so horrifically wrong. I have never really looked that far into it. If they had a second, like a first choice, and couldn't lock them down, and they had to go with Spader in the way that they did, which of course just led to Andy actually being the manager, and Spader was just replacing David Wallace effectively, who was replacing Kathy Bates. So you went from David Wallace, who's a fine character, Kathy Bates, who's pretty funny, to Spader being the boss, who then shows up way more than the other two did, which was bad.
Yeah.
Andy, they had to lean on him and make him the manager because, unfortunately, The Hangover made Ed Helms famous, and that's why he got to be the manager.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with the storyline of the fucking show or anything like that, which Jim just needed to be the manager. I get that they didn't want to write that because they wrote it for a little bit and they couldn't have their fun bullshit with Dwight.
I don't
But
like
tell
their
me that-
marriage strife that much.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into. Pam and Jim's we need to have a conflict in their marriage was really uncomfortable and did not fit into the show in any way.
That's true.
Why they couldn't just make Jim manager and have the antics with Dwight when all Michael did the entire time he was fucking manager is have dumb antics with Dwight, I will never fucking understand. It was right there. You could have just done it, but they didn't want to write it because they didn't like having to have Jim have responsibilities. As if Michael was a fucking responsible person running the office.
Yeah,
He's
I
a good
will say
manager,
though, what I liked about the show is Michael always, you could justify it in a weird way because his numbers were always really good.
Yes.
Like there was something about him, even though he
But-
sucked,
but-
he sold a lot of
Yeah,
paper.
But Jim's a good salesman. That's why he gets
Yeah,
promoted. Like
true.
you have built the argument that Jim is the second best salesperson in the office most of the time. So anyway, the season 1-ish to, I would say, I think I'm listening to the podcast right now. We're in season 6. I think even season 6 I'm fine with. It's a little bit right after Michael leaves, and I'm like, this is fucking bad.
I thought he didn't leave till 7.
I thought he leaves in
We'll look it up.
early in 7.
We can continue.
I think
now.
it's early in 7.
Cody
Anyway,
got it off his chest.
I had to
mean,
get it off the top of my chest.
I think that's the problem, though. That's why I go Fresh Prince here, is just because the last 3.5
That's
seasons
it.
feel so rudderless at
Yes.
times. And there are still so many strong things about it just because the cast is really good, and most of them we like their interactions. But yeah, I mean, Michael, like you said, you let Michael skate because he does produce, and you feel like it's a byproduct of his leadership style. Like, yeah, he's fucking goofy and weird, and he doesn't always get it, and he's offensive at times. But like at the end of the day, he cares, right?
yes.
He cares too much, more than almost any other character in this goddamn tournament. But at least he cares. And then you have the pantheon of Andy and Robert that follow him, where you're like, you're both assholes. You're not getting results. I don't like you. You've messed with the whole dynamic.
They have an episode where they do the tattoo on Andy's ass because they got motivated and all that, and it's supposed to be like a heartfelt thing. I'm like, no, he sucks. He fucking sucks. You've written him that I hate him so much.
He gets his comeuppance though. Eventually,
He doesn't though, because then he gets to be the fucking manager again at the end of it because he does the thing with David Wallace, and then David Wallace buys the company back and all that nonsense. I know Dwight ends the series as the manager. But like Andy still got to do that. And then they write it like Andy becomes famous because of his whiny cry thing on YouTube. Like they still fucking wrote him a happy-ish ending.
a little bit. It was basically, I took it as like a tragic ending, but there's like a little bit of hope because they
I want
realized
no
like
hope.
this guy sucks.
I want no
Yeah.
hope. He was terrible when he first came on, moderately okay for a couple seasons, and then becomes horrendous.
But he was funny when he was bad at first.
Yeah, funny-ish when he's being annoying in Stanford. Anyway, I just
You're
Sorry,
under.
we-
my
Cody,
biggest problem is that Ed Helms got really famous, and the show decided to just lean into that and not actually write itself the way it should have been written.
Cody, you're underselling how bad Robert California was.
He's so
Because
fucking bad.
he literally walked in. The first thing in the show they ever did was this guy comes in and goes, I'm going to interview for this position. This isn't enough. I'm going to go talk the CEO into giving me the company. What?
It was the way to write Kathy Bates out of the show and put
It was
Spader in. Like, clearly they just
horrible.
couldn't get Bates anymore, and that, like, it's just so evidenced by dumb shit like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think Spader was that bad, really, as an actor. His character was just awful.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good actor.
I love James Spader in like
Yeah.
Boston Legal and shit. Like, good actor, but all right. Let's go to the bottom half of the semis where we have two classics-ish, one from the 80s and one from a little bit before that. It's Cheers and I Love Lucy. And I've already kind of tipped my hand on this one. I'm voting for Cheers, and
Yeah.
I don't
Okay,
think it's
old
that close.
people, pick your
It's
show,
not,
old people.
It's I Love Lucy. It's funnier, I think.
I think Cheers is like you're starting to approach the pinnacle of what a sitcom is with Cheers. So like it's you could argue it's like the Zelda thing. Zelda 1, so groundbreaking. Breath of the Wild or whatever one is your favorite Zelda, then takes all those ideas and perfects them. Which one do you like more? You can make a case for both. I'm voting for Cheers.
Good. We can move on. I'm voting for Cheers. 3-1.
Gentlemen sweep, Dave?
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm I Love Lucy.
That's what I
I
thought.
said that at the very beginning. But I mean,
Just making sure.
It's with a heavy heart, Dave.
I
that
do
vote
feel like we
Cheers.
covered Lucy early on in this bracket.
We
depending
did talk
on how
about
good
it a
was.
decent amount. And look, I made it to the final four. So, like, I don't think there's any shame in that.
No.
But, okay. Let's
Third place.
we'll do the third place match first because that makes sense. That's how it works in real life too. You get the the last podium spot before you worry about the final. So for third place, because otherwise they'd be tied for third, we have The Office against I Love Lucy.
The Office is my vote.
I Love Lucy is my vote.
I Love Lucy is my vote.
Oh gosh, Chris.
I'm going for The Office. So chat.
Okay.
You get
This
to
is
decide
coming
third
quickly
place.
because we just started talking about it, but you have to break our tie between The Office and I Love Lucy.
Done. Lucy. Oh,
We're
it's
going to
over.
wait a
Well,
little bit more than just the first vote, but
I'm
all right.
just go-
Stop the count.
Maisie,
Stop the count.
Maisie's vote is going to be Office, so that's 1-1.
Well, that doesn't count because she didn't say it in there.
I know, but I don't know if
You
she's
can list your
awake.
wife if you want,
You don't get to
Dave.
keep texting her.
I don't know if she's awake or not.
You don't get to keep texting her.
I mean, she popped in earlier, so it's possible.
She appeared out of the blue.
I know, a wild
From the
amazing
ether.
thing. I can go. I mean, I can go either way with this. Even hell, how about they tie for third? That'd be fun. It's worth
No,
it.
the whole point of this
Um,
matchup is to avoid them having to tie.
No.
for third.
Office.
No!
There you go. Okay. I actually really
Um,
thought she was asleep. I'm very pleasantly surprised.
All right. I was just giving Doug a half second, but
Doug is going to vote The Office. He would never betray me like this.
or he would to start a blood feud. Oh no! What? Why did it kick me out of that view?
It didn't want you to do a third place match.
Well, it doesn't matter. We'll just come back to it from here.
Maisie
All right.
says, kind of awk.
Mm-hmm.
I think she meant awake. She's at half asleep.
Oh, okay. Jesus. Yeah.
They're watching
I'll
together. I'm sure
interpret
they're having
the way.
a watch party in the living room. It's time for our championship. It's been a long and winding road. I guess I should refresh myself. Yeah, so we have Chalk versus an upstart, just again based on number of episodes. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is the 41st seed. It has fought its way through the top half of the bracket to go up against Cheers, the number 2 seed, which made its way out of the bottom half.
So here's an argument I'll throw out there. In people of our age group, if you just start going in West Philadelphia, everybody knows the rest of it.
I could sing
Like-
the Cheers song and people would know that.
Oh, that's
I mean,
that.
in people
Dave,
older than us.
to
yes,
to the point. Both of these are super iconic.
that's true. It is. Very
People would
iconic.
probably know more. People would probably know Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but this is like maybe the 1 and 2 on like theme songs for a show. Friends is way up there too, but like, damn.
I mean, Cheers is iconic in the tune, but it's actually the lyrics are really simple. You want to go where everyone knows your name. That's pretty much the song. Fresh
Well,
Prince is
I'll get us started on an easy thing. I love Cheers, but like, I think Fresh Prince is like borderline fucking perfect.
Oh, we're already done then?
Well, I mean, I'm putting Dave's in because he's not voting for
I-
Cheers.
No, then we're done then because
Dave-
I'm voting for Fresh Prince, so that was easy.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there
right.
you go.
What did I say 2 rounds ago?
Yeah.
Well, man, I wish I could say more for Cheers. I wish I'd seen it more when I was older and understood it better, because I watched a lot as a kid and I just obviously I didn't get it as much. But like Fresh Prince was one of those, like, you could talk with that about that show with pretty much anybody and they knew it. Like everybody knew this show, at least tangentially. They knew the characters. The characters, while ridiculous in many ways, were still relatable, and it had that good balance, like Chris said earlier, of the dramatic when it needed to be, but funny when it needed to be as well. I don't think they tried to throw comedy into the dramatic moments when it wasn't necessary, which I appreciated about it.
Yeah, I mean, Cheers is another great, like, it's a feel-good show, for sure. Like, every episode, kind of like you said about How I Met Your Mother, like, you're a chair up at a table, listen to these people. It's like you're in the bar. It's great. It's a really, really good show. But, like, God, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there's so many good episodes and so many good characters that get their moments to shine. And, yeah, it's easy.
Only argument I have against it is there were a little path there where it seemed like they were going on the Will Smith as the Fonz. Like, he was the best basketball player ever. He was the best rapper ever. He was the best at literally, like, the most popular, best at everything he ever did. And I think they took a good turn to kind of, every once in a while, they'd knock him down a little bit. And I think adding Lisa, who was eventually became his wife in the show, was a really good thing, because they had someone to foil him, which I think was a really, really good addition and could have gone down that Fonzie road if they didn't stop.
That's a good point. But, like, he was always the best, but I feel like pretty commonly would get sort of his comeuppance when he was the best basketball player. He got laid into because he, like, didn't pass to Carlton. He was like a great gambler, but then he wouldn't give the money back to the charity, and that was a conflict. A used car sale, like, the list goes on and on. It's like he's so good at stuff, but then, like, it's always a lesson, and he gets brought down a peg.
Since Cheers is dead, I will say it has two characters that didn't exist in the beginning that ended up making quite a mark. Woody Harrelson's one of them. He's not on the show till season 4, which is easy to forget, especially when you see it in syndication. It feels like he's always there, but also George Wendt. We've talked about pretty much everybody else in that cast, but George Wendt is another one of those guys who's supposed to be like one line and instead becomes one of the main characters as Norm. Not the main characters. We know who, like, the big three are in that show. But between that, the dynamic with Diane and Carla, like, I have no qualms with Fresh Prince winning. If it was in a lot of other matchups, I'd probably vote for it. I think it's a very worthy thing to emerge from this bracket, but I don't think it should be a 4-0 in the final. So I'm voting for Cheers.
There we go.
Right.
And there is I think it's going to disappear.
The links
now.
at the bottom of this. Okay.
I can get back to the top 8 view. That's an easier way to see it. There you go. That's the way. Scroll over there, and you can pretty much see everything. That is the conclusion of the TV sitcom tournament. I would bet if you had tried to pick which two were going to be in the final, these would not have been the two. Maybe Fresh Prince. I think among ourselves we might have picked that, but I bet viewers are a little bit surprised to see those two make it and not some other things, like The Office, that people I think know we love quite a bit. But I don't really have too many issues with the way the bracket broke down.
I like your top 3. I think it's a solid top 3.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about iconic shows? There you go. I mean, really, our top 4 even. We got a healthy mix of classic and new, I think.
I think that's important too. Yeah, that's a good point. Like,
we have a 90s show.
Yep.
We have an 80s show. We have a 2000s show, and we have a 50s.
And we have the show that started it all.
Yeah, yeah. The original sitcom. I think that's important for that sense of, like, it was what kind of started the formula that started for going forward.
Yeah. Great. We did it, and right before 9 o'clock.
Yep.
4 minutes before 9.
Right about the time I thought. So, that's the end of this episode. Cody's gone the next couple weeks, so just to say goodbye forever.
Say goodbye to
him.
Cody.
I'm only here when you do brackets, anyways.
That's not true.
I'm just here to
You're
make
for
the
games.
chat matter,
We'll do another game. We'll do like a trivia thing. That was fun.
so I can lose.
No.
We
Yes.
are just about the end of this, but I suppose it wouldn't hurt. You want a sneak peek of next week's episode?
Yeah.
Ooh.
No.
Is it a tournament?
I'm not here.
Is it?
That's not fair.
Oh.
I'm not even on the screen anymore.
No, you're not, because you won't be here next week.
This will be fun.
I could Skype in.
Can you Skype in? Skype in.
It
Skype
won't
in
be-
and
it
do
won't
trivia
sound
with
I
us.
probably have a meeting at the conference I'm going to at the time on Tuesday.
Well, Skype in because you're really good at trivia, and a realization I made about myself.
Why do you think I'm good at trivia?
Because you're good at trivia. I think you're good at trivia because you're good at trivia.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't know that.
I watched trivia with you. You would know all the answers.
I don't know all of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I like.
Some of them.
I know it's reductive,
Sean-
but like, you're good at the
Sean's
thing that I'm saying you're good at. And I've also realized about myself, I'm not that good at trivia. I just enjoy it a lot. I think it's fun, but I suck at it kind of. So it'll be fun. And Dave is really good at trivia too, so it'll be fun.
I think I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm not going to argue that I'm bad or good.
I have put in some work.
Okay.
So next week's show.
So Chris, if I'm inviting Cody on your behalf with the work that you put in, does that actually work, or are you like that's going to ruin everything?
I had planned on the first episode being just the two of you for testing purposes, but I can easily make it 3. I have multicam set up.
Okay. So,
but the problem is if I set that up and then he doesn't make it because he has something come up last minute, I'll be furious at all of you.
So Cody, just let us know.
Even Dave, who won't have done anything.
And Chris said multicam, Cody, which means it'll be our own trivia sitcom, right?
That's right.
Right, fresh for us next week.
It's an hour, right? It's an hour.
Yeah, it's an hour-long sitcom.
7:30,
And yes,
multicam.
The intent long-term, I was going to talk about this next week, but is to have other guests as well from chat, from people in the audience, etc.
Only me.
So, yeah, you might have a chance to get your vengeance because you had a lead there for a while, Doug, last time, and then it kind of fell apart at the end.
Cody Lives Matter. Good.
I think I recently won a trivia, and
I won a trivia?
Chris and Dave will tell you it's like few and far between when I ever win any competition we ever do on the show. It's pretty rare that I win. I want to say it's less than 5. And we're on what episode now? How many 100 episodes have we done?
It says 533 at the bottom in front of your face.
I'm just making a point. That's why I'm bad at trivia. I can't read.
So for the listeners, that was a screen that had a neon sign that said Trivia Night. You've already kind of figured out from the context clues. It will still be audio friendly. Certain things that I have selected for this, I had to pick because we still have the podcast in mind, which is the majority of our listeners. So just keep that in mind. You can join in as well. You won't be able to keep score in real time like people in the chat will, but you can just as easily listen to it as well and challenge yourself at home because it'll still convert to audio.
Cool.
So
I'm excited.
Yeah. We'll see how that all goes next week, but it should be a pretty good one. You should tune in because if you thought this was fun, wait till you see the tricks I've pulled for this one. That's the end of the episode. In between shows, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com or youtube.com/objectionnetwork for videos 4, 5, 7, some amount of days per week. We'll see you next time.